What if I told you that mental health wasn't a talking point and that its real life implications reach far beyond simply suicide prevention? That's the truth, but what are we doing as a community to serve those facing these mental health challenges? Joe Watkins is the president and CEO of Community Council Health Services and the host of Joe Watkins State of Independence. He joins us today to break down those questions and more. That's all coming up right here, right now. I'm Sam Chen, and this is Face the Issues. Good evening and welcome to Face the Issues. I'm Sam Chen. Mental health, we all know about it, we're all concerned about it, but it's more than just a talking point. So what are the real life implications of mental health and what are we doing to work on those? Joe Watkins is the president and CEO of the Community Council Health Systems. And he's also the host of Joe Watkins State of Independence, which you can watch right here on this network. He is my guest tonight. Joe, welcome to Face the Issues.
Well, thanks so much, Sam. Great to be with you.
It is good to have you.
It's funny to be on this side of the...
I know, right?
I'm the one being interviewed
a little
now,
different.
Right? Yeah.
No, I just hope to be a fraction of the host that you've been. You have brought so much to this network, and just want to say thank you for what you do.
Thank you so much, brother. That's very, very kind.
It's so good to have you. And Joe, we're talking today about mental health, which is what you do. You are a pastor, you're a TV host, and you now are the president and CEO of the Community Council Health Systems. We're going to get into some of the challenges on mental health, but just want to start asking, who is your organization? What is it that you guys do?
All right, so we're located in Philadelphia on Wyalusing Avenue in West Philadelphia, but we serve people all around the city and in the surrounding areas as well. And the Lehigh Valley is not too far for us to talk to folks, or nor is Harrisburg. I mean, we're able to talk to people because of telehealth and lots of different places these days, which is a great thing. But we've been serving people now for decades who have mental and behavioral health issues. And the idea is to provide them with the support that they need so they can get better. And I guess the biggest challenge becomes the fear that people have in the stigma that's attached with admitting that you may have a mental health issue. And we want to do everything we can to eradicate that fear, to make it safe for people to get the access they need to mental health services. And so we're doing everything we can to encourage them to call us. It's just that simple. Give us a call, talk to one of our specialists, and we'd love to help you.
Yeah, we talk so much. I think when mental health is brought up, Joe, so much of it is focused on suicide prevention, which is extremely important, obviously. Or it comes up every time there's a mass shooting somewhere. The question becomes, what was his mental health like? How do you take that definition back? How do you define mental health?
Well, it's so wide ranging. At one time when we got started, we were Community Council Mental Health and Mental Retardation, and we still work with people who are mentally challenged and who maybe have severe challenges from the standpoint of cognitive, in a cognitive way, but it's really kind of expanded. We call ourselves now Community Council Health Systems, and that comprises all the things that we do, including helping adults and kids who have mental and behavioral health issues, maybe drug issues, maybe emotional issues, and kids as well who are in school who need this kind of the support that to get better and to really be everything they were meant to be. So we work with a wide range of people, from kids, from the youngest kids imaginable to adults to senior citizens.
I want to ask about the challenges of mental health. Again, we know every time we talk about suicide, but what you guys see every day goes beyond that. I mean, that's when it makes the news, but we see this well before it makes the news. I know, just looking at your website, you guys talk about broken families, you talk about substance abuse, about kids who miss school. What do you see when your patients, your clients walk through the door? What are the situations that you see that's their mental health challenges are affecting them in?
Well, we see human beings. We see people who are no different than you or me, but for their circumstances and challenges. And so I've told our staff to treat people the way you want to be treated. Everybody in here says the measure of how good we are is not how much money we make, but how well we treat the most challenged people coming through the door. So people come in. Sometimes people are homeless, and homelessness oftentimes is a direct result of some kind of mental or behavioral challenge, or maybe a drug challenge or a substance abuse challenge. And but we treat every person coming in the door, whether they're a kid or an adult or a teenager or somebody who's suffering from spousal abuse. We treat them like a human being and let them know we love them, and we're here to help them get better.
Is there? You just mentioned like homelessness oftentimes is a result of some kind of mental health challenge. Is there and I really know, is there a cyclical nature here where if someone is struggling with a mental health issue, it might lead to homelessness or substance abuse, and then in turn, that homelessness or substance abuse or domestic abuse then further triggers their it pushes their mental health further down the line?
You're absolutely right, Sam. That's an excellent question, and that's precisely some of the challenges that we face with people. As I said earlier, there's a stigma for some people with admitting that there is some kind of a problem, and untreated, any number of things can happen. Homelessness, jail. You can go to end up in the criminal justice system. But any number of things can happen if it's left untreated. So that's why we want to encourage people to reach out and to get the help they need, and not to worry about the stigma. We're all human beings. We all have problems, and our problems are different. And if your problem happens to be a mental or behavioral health problem, we're here to help you.
Yeah. How deep did these challenges run? I mean that in the sense of, I think you talked about some people end up in prison or homeless. I imagine there are others who are not, the impact has not gone that far yet. What's the gamut that you see as far as how bad can these implications run?
Well, everything from A to Z, of course. We've seen the biggest challenge is to help people get better. It's one thing to take somebody who has a substance abuse problem and then say that they're a client of ours for 20 years. That's not a good outcome for us. That means that we didn't help them to improve, to get better. We want people to come and to be treated and to get better, so that they don't end up in a desperate situation. You're right when you mentioned earlier about the cyclical nature of these things. So when you have, for instance, a pandemic, as we have undergone and are still undergoing, this exacerbates the challenge, because people are shut up in homes or wherever it is they may be living, and because of the inability to have face-to-face contact with people, oftentimes this makes their mental challenges even greater. So whether it's suicide or somebody thinking about suicide or drug abuse or some other kind of substance abuse, oftentimes these things are exacerbated during a period like we've had with the pandemic.
So something that someone struggling with mental health, they may think I can handle this, but then something else like a pandemic comes and it can really snowball.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, yeah. So somebody thinks, I've got it under control, I've got a small problem, and then the pandemic comes and you can't talk to anybody and you're stuck in your house, and next thing you know, what was a small problem is now a big problem.
A very big problem.
And so that's why we tell people, don't be afraid. Call us, get the access, 215-473-7033. We've got an extension, I think 7336 is the extension, if I'm right. But,
let's get the right extension.
my wonderful staff made sure to text it to me. 7338 is the extension.
7338.
But 215-473-7033, extension 7338. They can speak to somebody. And these conversations are confidential. You don't have to worry that this is being reported. These are confidential conversations.
Yeah, and to your point, it's something we all say, right? You don't fix a leak in your roof when it's downpouring, right? And so you might see it and think, well, that's okay until the storm comes. And to your point, this is something that so many of us deal with, these mental health challenges, and we may think it's manageable. But when the storm comes, we find out it's not, and we need to get ahead of that.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Joe, I want to ask you about who gets affected by this. I know we say everybody, and you mentioned earlier a lot of times people are afraid of the stigma. Look, and you and I are both on TV regularly, and there's people who follow us, and there's almost a pressure, and you're a pastor as well, and there's almost a pressure to be a certain way or to keep a certain image. And I think back, we just came off the Olympics. Michael Phelps, Simone Biles, Caleb Dressel, they've all spoken very openly about their mental health challenges, and you see that pushback on social media. You're the greatest athlete in the world. How could you have mental health challenges? I know you're going to tell me that this does not. I mean, it includes mental health challenges, includes all of them. What, in many ways, what are they dealing with, and or you or me, what are we dealing with in the public eye that they may not see, and what advice do you have for someone who's at that level and also dealing with this?
Well, you're absolutely right, Sam. For people who are in the public domain, maybe in front of a TV camera, or maybe they're an athlete at the Olympics, and so millions of people are watching them. There's added pressure to be whoever it is the world thinks you are. And that's hard for somebody like Simone Biles, just an extraordinarily talented athlete, or Michael Phelps, any of them. It's just difficult to maintain the aura of I am who you think I am. And I've got it all together, by the way. And I've won these gold medals. I'm going to win more. That's a lot of pressure for somebody to have with them. And so I'm just so proud of all of them who have stepped forward and said, you know what, I may be an Olympic athlete, I may be a gold medalist, but guess what, I've got mental challenges too. And these are the same challenges that affect everybody. The people who aren't in front of a TV camera, who have to work every day, who have to maintain whatever it is they're trying to maintain, providing for their family, providing for themselves, keeping up the image of who they are, whether they're a pastor of a church, or a teacher, or a lawyer, or a doctor, or any number of jobs. There are huge challenges that come with that, and sometimes people get emotionally strained, and they need to talk to somebody. And so that's why we say, we're here for you, and it's okay to talk to somebody. Don't suppose that because you have a problem that it's not a problem that can be fixed, or that you're by yourself. The Michael Phelps and Simone Biles talking about their problem is meant for everybody to see that, you know what, lots of folks have these challenges, not just folks who you think aren't seen, but famous people who are in front of the camera, who are known by millions. They have these same problems too.
And to your point, Simone Biles, Michael Phelps, obviously they're not facing homelessness, but they're facing challenge. Their implications of their challenges are going to be different, and what they're essentially saying is you don't have to be facing homelessness or substance abuse to have these challenges. You can be competing to be the greatest athlete at the games and still have these challenges.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Joe, I appreciate you breaking that down. We're going to go to the break. When we come back, I want to talk about solutions, what your organization does, and how we can really kind of get ahead of this issue.
Outstanding.
So, don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Face the Issues. Joe, thank you again for joining us. And this is a tough topic. It's a dark topic in many ways, but it's one that's really important. I just appreciate your work in it and you joining us here today. I want to ask you about your organizations, the Community Council Health Systems. You guys talk a lot about a holistic approach to addressing.
Evidence-based and holistic. We look at the whole person. And that's why we don't want people to feel like there's a stigma attached to their mental or behavioral challenges. And we approach it from the standpoint, I happen to be a believer in Jesus, and so I think it's important for us to demonstrate that we love our neighbor like we love ourselves, and we're dealing with human beings. And so I think that when people know you really love them, you care about them, you're not just a number, you're not just another customer, that has an impact too on their getting better.
When you say the whole person, I think a lot of times we think mental health is something that's up in the head. You're suggesting that it's not that it's a heart question, head, heart. Physical health, does that contribute to mental health?
Physical health and circumstances. Let's say if somebody has an accident and they lose the capacity to use one of their limbs or to see, that can have an impact on you. Let's say somebody undergoes a divorce or a separation. That can have an impact on your mental and emotional health, your behavioral health. You lose your job, God forbid. That could have a huge impact on your mental and emotional health. Knowing that you don't have that job, and then the pressure of trying to find another one. There are all kinds of issues that can cause your mental health to not be as good as it could be. So that's why we deal with the whole person. Why are you homeless? You didn't just get homeless because you woke up one day and you didn't have a home. What led to it? What were the circumstances that led to it? What's going on with your family? Tell me about your family. Tell me how you grew up and what happened to you. You learn so much when you talk to human beings about their situation and how they got where they are. And then the challenge becomes then how do you help them get past this and to move forward? Sure.
In our society, in the American society, we're very good about compartmentalizing everything, and this part doesn't affect this part doesn't. Do you think that's dangerous to mental health? Is that furthering some of the problems that we're seeing?
Well, I think that's a great point, that we do tend to compartmentalize. and that's not always a good thing. People do it with church, of course. Like I'm a Christian on Sunday between 11 and 1, and then I go back to being me. But I feel I'm okay because you can check that box. I went to church, and that makes me okay. I know I sang the hymns. I know a couple of lines of scripture. I remember the Bible verses that were read today, so I'm okay for the week, even if I don't practice. And this is why it's not good to compartmentalize, because clearly, if you're a believer in Jesus, you should be that every day of every week. And the same is true with regards to your mental and behavioral health. Who you are and what you're doing every day, every week, impacts your mental and behavioral health, and impacts how people see you as well, and how you see yourself. So not good always to compartmentalize, to put those things in a box. Say, well, I have a drinking problem, but that's just and not that big a thing. I can handle it. I mean, you've heard of people, who are functional substance abusers, alcoholics, and the like. But the idea is to help them become whole people and whole, healthy people, and that's part of the work that we do.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier too, evidence-based.
Yes.
What do you mean by evidence-based?
Well, you obviously don't want to work with people and you wouldn't want to hear that this was the first time and that there was no evidence to prove that whatever I was telling you or doing for you was going to help you. You'd be like if I served you a dish and I said, "This is delicious, Sam," and I hand it to you, and then you said, "What is this?" You said, "Well, it's delicious to me. I don't know if it's delicious to you. It's goulash, and so evidence-based means that there's evidence that it works, that we know what we're doing, that there's a reasonable outcome that we can expect, and that's what we want the people who come to us to know, so that they don't have to worry about being surprised.
Sure. And to your point, there's so many messages, especially now with social media. Everybody's become an expert, so to speak, on everything. And so to your point, it does become even more imperative to know that, hey, there is actual research and understanding. These are experts, real experts in the field. I appreciate that approach. Now, again, you guys spent so much time and focused on a lot of the implications of mental health. And I know you guys have one sector of your organization who works with kids and children, a different one that works with adults. You have an entire sector dedicated to education. What was the idea in kind of separating those sectors out? I know you have so many programs in each of these. This is different than, some groups would just say, okay, we're going to do just kind of a scatter shot and we're just going to talk about mental health in general. Why the breakdown, and why is that so important?
Well, I think it's really important to reach as many people as we can, and to also respect the fact that people's challenges are different. So there's a different challenge for somebody who's had long-term mental and emotional problems, from somebody who may be a substance abuser to somebody who may be facing the challenge of homelessness. Those are big challenges, but they may be different. And then for young people, how about kids who are in school who maybe are coming from an abusive home, or who have whatever emotional or mental challenges they face? We have a whole division. Our educational services division is dedicated to working with kids in special ed to help them get up to speed. And the idea is to help them so they don't stay where they are when we first met them, but to get them to the point where they end up being a contributing human being, somebody who feels good about the use of their potential and reaching their potential, and somebody who contributes to the society at whole.
Yeah, and one of the other things you guys work on is you try to unite families, or I think it's one thing where we don't even realize that mental health can result in families being broken apart, sometimes legally, other times just because there's just no sustainable way of keeping that family together. Talk to me a little about the work that you guys do in trying to really build the family back together.
Well, we think it's so important to build families and to keep them together if we can, or to build them back together, which is why we want them to work with us. And I don't know about you, Sam, but I can attest to the power of family in my own life. The family that I have with my best friend and the love of my life, Stephanie Watkins, who's been my wife for these last more than 4 decades. I'm afraid to say that I'm that old, Sam.
You look good, Joe. You look good.
Thanks. The hair dye and the makeup are working, hopefully. But I've been married to this wonderful woman for more than 40 years, and she's the love of my life. And she's made such a difference in my life, as have our children and now our grandchildren. And I grew up in a loving family. I had the best mom and dad, both of whom, by the way, came from broken homes, which I think made them more determined to provide a home setting for us that was whole and nurturing. And my parents loved us and they sacrificed for us. And my father, my mother would say, my father has passed on, but my mother's still with us. And she said, my dad used to say, after the fact, after all 6 of us got out into our professions and finished school, he said, you know, honey, he says, we didn't have a lot of money, but what money we had, we put into our kids, and it really paid off. And they made an investment in us, not just financially, but an investment of time and love in our lives, and it paid off. So I want that for everybody. I want that for the kids that are in our program. I want that for the adults. I want that for all of our people, all the people that come to us. I want them to have the same shot at happiness that I've had.
Yeah, and there's so many groups out there that do mental health work, awareness groups, education groups, groups that do counseling. You guys have your hands in a little bit of all of it. Where do you see your organization fitting in that larger conversation with mental health?
Yeah, well, I see us hopefully having an impact on lowering the numbers of people who are incarcerated. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's in some way helping with the rate of employment. Maybe more of our people, as they get well, find work. Our young kids, because they're in our special ed programs, have positive outcomes because of the people that we have working with us who run that division. And those kids end up, instead of going to jail or to a situation where they aren't working, they end up becoming working, contributing citizens and loving family members. Loving members of the community. That's our hope and our prayer. That people get well. That ultimately, the day comes when you can have me on the program, and I can tell you, the average length of time that we have a patient involved with us is 3 months or 3 years. But I can tell you what that number is because they're only with us for a while because they get better. We have a history of seeing them get better. We do have a history of seeing them get better, but I'd like to shorten that period of time. I'd like to see more people get better and be able to codify that for you.
I love that you have benchmarks that are measurable, which is hard sometimes, especially with mental health, but that you've got measurable benchmarks and they're directly what these young men and women, or whatever age they are, these individuals can go and do in society. And I love that you have that. Joe, to close out this segment, when someone's watching this show that deals with mental health struggles, we've said just about everybody at some point you're going to deal with some mental health struggle. What's your advice to them? If you could say something to them, what would you say?
Well, I would say one, of course, if you're a believer, as I am, don't ever cease praying. Mm-hmm. So always go to your Heavenly Father and ask Him to help you and to guide you. And then as for your earthly challenge, take advantage of the access that you have. Call us up. Dial 215-473-7033 and then go to extension 7338 and speak to somebody. Talk to somebody. Tell them about your problem, and we'd be delighted to help.
That's great advice. Joe, thank you so much for your insights. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Face the Issues. Joe, thank you again for your time. The closeout, we always like to get to know our guests. Now, I know our viewers know you from your show, but Joe, you are a TV host. You host Joe Watkins' State of Independence. You worked in the White House for the late President George H.W. Bush. You've been the political commentator on MSNBC and elsewhere. You're a pastor, proud husband, father, grandfather. You've got so much going for you. Certainly it's easy for us to say, hey.
The best part of what I do are the people who help me. And we've got a tremendous staff of people that are not in front of the camera, but they do outstanding work, and they make me look better than I am.
Oh, that's
and I love them for it. Jeff Coleman is just the best, and I love him and just appreciate his advice and his counsel and what he does. And I appreciate all the people behind the camera. I work, of course, with Josh and Micah and Luke. Luke has to mic me up and put my earpiece in. And,
Same.
and Micah has to deal with me not following his instructions, in front of the camera. But he's just wonderful at it. And Josh, of course, puts everything together and schedules everything and just makes sure the logistics are great. And then there are Dan and Margaret Huber who have been just such a blessing to my life and Stephanie's life. We just love them like their family because they are to us. And they do what they do because they feel that God has called them to do it. Yeah. And I just love being a part of the Lighthouse family and having the chance. So the best part of what I do is the people I get to do it with, who work to support this ministry that I have on television and who aren't seen by the camera, but boy, they're appreciated and loved.
Yeah, I agree. Let me ask you this, Joe. Why do you do what you do? I mean, obviously the people around us are fantastic, whether it's the show or your work here in mental health. What gets you up in the morning?
What gets me up every single morning is thinking about how can I love God back? Mm-hmm. God has already loved me. I'm an imperfect person. I've got lots of faults, and God has loved me to see past my weaknesses and faults, and has brought me to a saving knowledge of His Son. And what can I do to love Him back? And how can I love the people around me like I already love myself? That's what I think about every day. That wakes me up every day.
I love that. That's such great advice. Joe, thank you so much for joining us. I know it's a little weird on the other side of the table, yeah. But I absolutely enjoyed having you. And again, thank you for what you do every day.
Thank you, Sam. God bless you.
Same to you. That is our show for tonight. Again, my thanks to our guest and fellow host on this network, Joe Watkins. You can catch his show right here on Lighthouse TV. And we invite you to tune in again next week right here at the same time for another episode. Until then, my name is Sam Chen. On behalf of all of us here at Face the Issues, thank you and good night.